of the Black Directory podcast. I am so excited to have my special guest here today, Miss Precious Rodgers. I'm like, how do we meet? So back in May, I think I told you all before on a previous episode, I went to this podcast conference, the Black Pod Collective conference, and it was so many amazing speakers. It was so many sessions, and I couldn't make them all. But I remember there was this session going on that was all about really just how to level up your podcast, I guess from a marketing perspective on Pinterest. And I'm like, whoa, that's so niche and specific. And I just always had that curiosity. And I was able to reach out to her, get a sense of just who she is, what she does. And I knew that I wanted her on the podcast. That way you all could kind of be on that epiphany journey that I was on of like, mind just blown of like, wait, you guys are going to see throughout this conversation, but welcome to the show, Precious. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about, everything, especially, dropping some Pinterest gems. I just completely love to talk in general. So that's how
Which is good. Which is good for a podcast. So I'm just happy that you're here. I'm ready to learn even more than I did when we talked before. I'm ready for everyone else to learn and just see how we can understand Pinterest as a whole and figure out where we fit in. But before we get into that, I would love for you to introduce yourself and share who you are and how did you get to this chapter you're in now where you are dominating the Pinterest market.
Yeah, so like she said, I'm Presh or Precious or Presh Rodgers, and I always say like my journey was just not something I saw coming because I started out as a virtual assistant and kind of fell into Pinterest. And once I understood what it was, how it can be used in an online space, especially when it comes to people who have different type of businesses that they really do market online, that it was really something that's underrated. It's the underdog. And I was like, okay, I really want to get into this. And I started by being a virtual assistant. And prior to that, it was just a whole nother story that we're going to really get into, but completely not where I saw my life going. And now it's just like, I completely love what I do. I love teaching people about Pinterest. I love seeing people kind of get that epiphany of how they can use the platform to really get their business seen in a different kind of way. So that's basically how everything got started.
So I guess, like you said, we can backtrack that way people can follow us.
Not too
So
much too quickly.
no, but what did you see for yourself, right? Like of course you didn't see where you are now, but originally take us back to just that initial like, okay, I know I want to do this thing in life.
Yeah, so I went to college and I wanted to do something with computers or apps or something like that. And so I have 2 degrees in information technology. And my dream was to work for Google. Like I wanted to build apps for Google. So my master's is in Android development. So I was like, I'm going to build these great apps, which I did get to build 2 apps when I was in my grad program. So that's kind of cool. But
Ooh.
yeah, I don't know, like things just completely changed because after I started working my first job around like the 4.5 year mark, I just knew I didn't like what I was doing. Cause like your first job, it might be a little bit not exactly what you thought you were gonna be doing when you
Yeah.
graduated college. And it was just not really what I wanted to do. That's why I went back and started my master's. And one of my friends told me about teaching English abroad in South Korea. And so I started researching that. And then in 2014, I applied. And in 2015, I moved to South Korea for 3 years. And that was just like a whole journey in itself. And when I moved back in 2018, I intended on going back into IT. Like I remember going to this whole because Google is actually very one thing about their I don't like they're recruitment people. They stay in contact with you. So like I had an interview with them before. They kept me on file. Like I remember one time they reached out to me when I was in South Korea. I was like, I'm not even in the country. And they was like, oh well, we'll still keep in touch. So when I got back, I got invited to some kind of event that they had in Miami when I was living there. And I was still very much interested in working for Google. And I don't know, it's like that first year back, I was just like, I don't want to do this whole 9 to 5 thing. I don't want to be tied down. I want to travel still a lot. And the idea of just having like 2 weeks of vacation and a more structured job did not seem right for me
I
anymore.
get it.
And that's how I got into researching about being a virtual assistant. Um, and started going that route because I felt like I can do this working from my computer, do admin work for people, and I can still travel the world. And that's kind of like spiraled into like where I am today.
But that's so cool because I know it's just so cool though because it's just interesting how you can have a plan. I think everyone can relate to that. It's like,
Now I'm about
okay,
to apply for
I get the
these
A to B to C, I
forgiveness.
apply. Yeah, you just kind of get into that whole cycle. And shout out to Google for having you on file and staying in touch
Yes, they
because
were probably until about 2019, they were still reaching out to me, like just touching base and stuff like that. And that's when I told them, like, oh, well, I'm going a completely different direction now.
mm,
But yeah, that was one thing I thought was really cool is that they kept in touch with people that they saw potential in, I guess, per se, and will make sure that they keep that content going. So if there is any jobs openings or how you can improve yourself so that you can get hired and things like that, they were really good at.
no, that and that's good. It's crazy. It takes a lot of courage to kind of go the other way, right? Like sometimes we have what we want, like, oh, I want that flexibility to be a little bit maybe more in control, or at least to have if I have the flexibility, I can have the lifestyle I want.
Right.
And
And
it's kind of like that unknown because it's like, okay, with Google, for example, it's like, okay, my paycheck will be this. It's like
mhm.
that structure of knowing
Oh
what to
my God,
expect.
because being a business owner is very different. And even speaking of that, I remember when I was looking for a job. This is 2019 when I realized I was like, okay, I got to start working. And one of my
Hmm.
friends who I met in Korea, she was working at this startup company. She told me about them. They were coming to Atlanta. So I started interviewing with them. It was the longest interview process I've ever been through. I
Really?
literally had to do like a recruiter interview, another interview on the phone, had to go in person. And this is during COVID. Had to go in person
Mm.
just to sit down in a room to interview a virtual interview with like 5 different people.
No way.
Yeah, because they were still in California. Most of them were still in the
Mm.
office was open, but they weren't like open yet. And after that interview, I probably had maybe like 2 more interviews. That's how long the process was. And I kept thinking, like, do you really want this
Do
job?
you
Like,
really want
and I
this?
felt
Yeah.
like I was going to get offered the job. So, I mean, I'm going to like the 4th round. Like, how much more time you got to decide if I'm going to pick me? And I was just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to like do whatever it was. I can't remember exactly what the position was, but it actually was a good company. They had like the new age of like
Mm.
unlimited PTO, and I think it
I
was going to
love
be
that.
like where I can be like a hybrid method of working. But I was like, it was in my IT field, and I was just like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Like, this is not really what I want to do. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm just going to go full force into more so the in the online space of things. So it might have been 2020. It had to be 2020 then. Um,
Hmm.
that I started doing that. I was doing the VA work then, and I wasn't sure how I was going to go about it. And I was like still looking for a career. And then I was just like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to go all in this business.
So tell me about, okay, you're on this virtual assistant track. Where does Pinterest come into play?
Yeah, so my very first client was an influencer, and she had a blog. So, well, she has a blog, and she knew that Pinterest was one of her top sources for traffic. But she also knew
Mm,
that she was not leveraging Pinterest in the right way. She was like, I'm just like putting my content out there, but I don't think I'm doing it in the most like efficient, effective way. Can you help me? And I'm a virtual
mhm.
assistant, so I can literally do anything in my head. I'm like, I can do that. I can don't know nothing about Pinterest. Like,
I'll figure it out.
right. So I took like this course, like it's called 90-Day VA when I first
Mm,
started, and they had like a module on being a Pinterest manager. So I'm like, well, there's a module on this. I can figure it out from there. And that's really how I got looped into it. And luckily for me, she was okay with me kind of like figuring things out as with her profile. And it's
mhm.
amazing now. So like it was just something that I kind of like fell into and didn't love from there.
And now you're a Pinterest badass.
I'm a yes.
I love that. I love that
I'm
so
very much a
much.
rebel. People were like, "Oh, people are not gonna understand what you mean when you say Pinterest badass. You gotta say marketing expert." I'm like, I'll just keep saying it until they figure it out.
I like it. I like it. It's just so like authentic, and it's your brand,
Right.
at the end of the day. So I think that's smart anyways. But it is cool how um again, it's like I see all the little gems because it's so easy to be like, hey, I don't know that, or just kind of afraid to dive in with something that you don't know.
Mhm.
And sometimes you don't have to say you don't know something. It's like let me at least go try. Let me at least go
Right.
research. I know I can figure it out, if I put my mind to it. So
I
what's
think
some
things,
so the
everything
yeah.
is like you can figure out. It's like a book about that, like figure it out, outable or something like that. I can't remember who wrote it, but it's like basically everything you can figure out everything pretty much if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, I think so. I think so as well. Like just being self-taught, and I think realizing you didn't have to go to school because a lot of times, depending on the schools, some schools are behind when it comes to social media and what's going on in real time.
Yeah,
And a
they
lot of
catch
times
it
you
up
have to get your
after
hands
when
on it.
they see like, oh wait, this is really a thing. Like now I'm pretty sure you can go to school for social media management or something like that because now it's a huge thing. But when I was in school, that was not a thing that people were going to
Hmm.
school for. But that also shows that you don't have to go to school to learn how to market someone's business. It's definitely something you can learn. And then there's always YouTube University. People are
Yeah.
always teaching. Like there's definitely ways to learn without having to get a degree in something. You can still be very much skilled in something that you don't have a degree in.
No, I totally agree with you. I feel like so many things that I know, like you said, YouTube University, trial and error, just kind of figuring it out. So I
Mhm.
think that mindset is always like for the win. But okay, so you're discovering all these things on Pinterest. When do you start to feel kind of like an expert? Like, okay, I really feel like I know this platform.
I would say so. That was 2019. Probably by December 2020 is when I was feeling more confident and comfortable. In
Hmm.
2021 is when I completely went all in into Pinterest. So prior to that, in 2020, I was doing Instagram and Pinterest marketing. I've always felt comfortable with Instagram. I've always been like a social media person, so that was easy to kind of fall into. But yeah, I would say by about a year later, I started feeling more confident and comfortable. I did have some coaches, so it was able to make me feel like even if I don't know something, I know someone who does know what I don't know.
And that's good as well. I think we hear a lot about coaches these days, but I think it is a great development kind of tool to pull out your pocket of like, okay, how do I tap into someone that they're going to know a little bit more than me,
Mhm.
and just have as a resource. So I think that was definitely, it seems like a beneficial thing or a good move for you. Um, so how did you get to the point where you're like, okay, I want this to be my lane and I want to help business owners and people learn how to leverage this platform for their business.
Yeah, so I would say it was in 2020.
Mhm.
Summer 2020 is when I got my Pinterest mentor coach, and she helped me really figure out like what things I wanted to offer because I knew I didn't want to offer like what everybody else was offering. I knew there were things that I did and did not like when it comes to being a Pinterest manager, and so she helped me figure out how I wanted to structure my business model. And then,
Mhm.
like I said, in December, funny story was in December 2020, my Instagram account got shut down for a month. And it was like a
Mm.
sign that you just need to just focus on Pinterest because if things like
Yeah.
this happen, you have a backup option. You have something that works in the background and not just where you have to show up every day. So for me, it was like the push that gave me to like leave Instagram alone as far as something that I was offering for services and go on into Pinterest and feel like
Mhm.
I think this is something that so many businesses don't use, and I want to be that person that they go to and see where they can learn from how they can make it work for their business.
No, that makes sense, and I think life is so funny. It has a way of kinda
I
taking out other
I always
options.
say, when you say something to the universe, be ready for what you're saying because it would be like, because I think I'm pretty sure, like in like October, November, I was considering it, but it was
Mm-hmm.
that scary factor. I think at that point I only had like one Pinterest, maybe two, one or two Pinterest marketing clients, and I had way more Instagram marketing clients. So I knew that one, I was going to have to stop offering Instagram, and two, I wasn't going to like let go of my clients, but I was going to
Right.
not offer the services anymore. I was going to only push for Pinterest, and that was scary. So when you put
Mm-hmm.
that out into the universe, this is what I want to do. They was like, okay, well, here you go. Like I think probably by the summer of 2021, I didn't have any more Instagram clients. Like they all kept falling off, and I was like,
Which
okay,
make yeah.
like, but things rolled out so well in 2021 also. So it was just like a good balance of like, well, when you say something and the universe is listening, be prepared for it because it's gonna happen. They're gonna
No,
put
I no, yeah, what is it? Be careful what you wish for, or what, like you said, your words, like the power
Mhm.
of your words, and it can very well be a reality, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what we're
Like,
doing.
oh,
We're
another
this we're
client left me. Okay, well that was a social media marketing client. And they're like, well,
yeah,
you said you want a Pinterest client, so don't worry. We're making space for your Pinterest
making
clients to come.
space. I love that though. It's like, speaking what you want and making space for it, because it's easy to say you want something and kind of like resist, and you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
fighting it of like, wait, what is going on? It's like, well,
Right.
that's what you asked for, and this is what it looks like. And sometimes we're not prepared for what it actually looks like in real life. We just know we want, we see the end,
Right.
but not like that part in the middle, and just the
Definitely.
process, I
Because when I
think.
first was losing clients, that was scary. Like, okay. And then, a couple of weeks later, I'm getting more Pinterest clients. And it's like, oh, I see what you were doing.
Confirmation. That's all that was
You're just
confirmation of
telling
like,
me that you
okay.
can't do all this at once. You can't do it all. So you gotta have this happening. So yeah, definitely.
So what would you say are like some misconceptions when it comes to Pinterest, like for us entrepreneurs out there, what are things that we should keep in mind of like, we may look at Pinterest as, oh, that's where I figure out what kind of house I want, or, what my next hairstyle is gonna be. What's some things that we may not know just from that surface level when it comes to
Oh,
Pinterest?
that's fun because one, I want to say that people always loop it in social media, and
Mhm.
there are social aspects to Pinterest, but Pinterest actually should be looped with search engines like Google and YouTube because you're going there, like you just mentioned, you go there to look up inspiration for your home or find something about a hairstyle. You're actually going there and you're typing something in a search bar to find content on these things that you are looking for. So you are
Mm,
indeed using Pinterest like it's supposed to be used. You're using it like a search engine. But for some reason, people forget that when it comes to marketing their business. So, say for instance, if someone like for me, if someone has like press on nails or something like that and they have them on Pinterest and I'm going there looking for nail designs or press on nails, I'm searching for something. If I come across their products, now I'm going into, their Etsy store, their Shopify store, whatever it is,
right.
and now I can purchase something. So that is actually part of their funnel. That's it's having me find them at the top of the funnel, finding them on Pinterest, and then going to the next step. When you find like inspiration for your house, or if you find like hairstyles and things like that, you're finding someone's content and you're using that for whatever you need. So it
Right.
works the same way for I've gotten on probably hundreds of people email lists from finding some kind of freebie they have on Pinterest. That is what I need, and then I get on their email list. And now, years have gone by and I'm still on their email list, maybe have purchased from them, anything like that. So look at it as a search engine and not as social media because I don't know anyone who really goes on Pinterest trying to be like, oh, I wonder what such and such is doing. No,
Right.
we're
And
not
that's
there.
something that I think, like you said, is a key difference when we were talking before, because with all these other platforms, you're buying into the person. It's all about, whoever you follow, right? Like, oh, what are they doing? Oh, they have kids, and you kind of get invested into like that,
Right, which is great
which is
for
great.
nowadays, we really much care about who people are. We want like people
Hmm.
want to buy from people. But platforms like Instagram is really great for engagement. It's really great for getting to know to build that know, like, and trust. Whereas platforms
Yes.
like Pinterest is really great for building awareness, getting in front of people who do not know you. because that way you're pulling them in. You know, majority of Pinterest searches are unbranded, meaning they're not going there and looking for um a Fendi bag. They're going there looking for just a purse, like a certain type of bag, maybe a beach bag, and then they can come across all these beach bags, you know. Or if I'm looking for, you know, a contract, I can come across all kinds of contracts. I'm not
Hmm.
specifically typing in a brand name. I'm typing in
Yes.
exactly what I'm searching for. And that's really what's great about Pinterest. So it's allow people to find you, new to you people, come across who you are, get acquainted with who you are, and then if they start seeing you, maybe they will go follow you on something like Instagram where now they can get to know you even better.
Yeah, and I think that's what's cool. And what I was gonna say before is like Pinterest is a great search engine. You know, I know when we talked about it before, I was like, okay, yeah, it is a search engine, and that's where I can put in like the most specific thing, like short hairstyles for Black people. Like it's just so like
Mhm.
it's really incredible because I feel like it's so rare. I really can't remember a time where I searched something and didn't find what I was looking for. Or even when I was like thinking about having like an apparel line and I didn't know what kind of fonts I wanted to use. I just wanted to see typography. I just wanted to see like it was just like endless. And like you said, you're not looking for a specific person, but if the content is good, like I feel like with Pinterest, it's all about what you have to offer, but it's not about you. So it's like,
It's not
okay,
about you.
it's not about you.
We call it the anti-platform because it is not about you. People do not care about you in that sense. Like I've had clients who are like, "Oh, I want to put like a board about, you know, the places that I've been and stuff like that." They don't care. They're not here for that. They're here for your content. They want to find your content. So if you're using it as a business, it's about the content that you're putting out there. They're here to search for your content. If you want to share about your trip or whatever, you do that on like Instagram or something, or Facebook or your website, anything else, but it's not about that content. Because think about it, like certain things people on Pinterest will just save. Like if I was to come across a pretty picture of a beach and I'm planning a trip, I'm just gonna save that picture. I'm not
Right.
thinking about visiting it, especially if you're just sharing the picture. Now, if you are like in my client's case, she shares stuff about traveling in like East Africa and stuff like that. So she has a lot of content on traveling there. So when people click on those, they're able to go to her blog post where she has like travel guides and things like that. So that makes sense that she will put
Right.
all this content and pretty pictures out there around traveling. But if that has nothing to do with your business and what you're doing, then you don't want to do that on your business profile.
No, and I'm just happy you're talking about this because it seems like there's going to be a mindset shift because it's so easy to feel like, well, I just want to repurpose what I'm already doing on all these other
Yeah, you
platforms, but it
should.
may not land for real. It's just like, and then like I
Yeah,
think we were
you
saying,
have
it's
to
like you're
figure,
like it doesn't work.
you have to
Pinterest
figure
doesn't
out
work.
what's going to work on Pinterest, and that
Yeah.
requires trial and error. So even me, I'm an author also, and so I'm testing out Pinterest as an author, and I'm seeing which like type of content works best because
Hmm.
there's content. I'm really pretty big on TikTok content, and that content lands is going to land differently than how it will land as an idea pin on Pinterest. So I'm playing around with that now, seeing what is and isn't working. But you have to look at the content on Pinterest, seeing what is really working, and seeing how you can take what you've already created and still make it work. But also know that yes, some things won't work. So like time sensitive things don't usually work well on Pinterest because
Hmm.
it is a search engine. And so if you put out your live webinar that's next week on Pinterest, people might not find it for like 5 weeks from now, and then it's not live anymore. So, but if it's
Hmm.
like a pre-recorded webinar that they can, you know, sign up for any time, that will work. So you have to know like what will and will not work very well, and you know, just really seeing how the people on Pinterest interact with content.
So yeah, it seems like you're saying like evergreen content is better, not necessarily
Evergreen
things
content
that
is
are like
better,
next month. It's like
right?
because it's either going to be not relevant and people find it later, or So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you have to do
Um,
evergreen, long-lasting content, which
mhm.
is what it's really great for, so that say for instance, as a podcaster, all your podcasts are still probably pretty much relevant. You can go and put all your podcasts now on Pinterest, and it's
Mm.
still going to be fine when people find it, weeks, months, years later. It's not going anywhere as long as you don't delete your podcast or where you're sending the traffic to. But anything that's not going to be long lasting like that, it's not going to work as well, because you don't want people finding something that is old and then just think
Yeah.
about how you yourself as a user will use Pinterest. So if you come across something that is not there anymore, you're like, what? Now I got to go back to the search engine. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And so, what would you say? So, say, I want to start using Pinterest for my podcast. Of course, I'm thinking it would be different than like a promo graphic, like watch, watch, watch. What kind of content
Yeah, don't do
would
that.
make right? It's like, no one's, it's not working. But what would be the best approach in that sense for, yeah, I guess for content creators, I guess whether people are on a podcast or,
Yeah,
um,
so I always say when you're creating your Pinterest graphic, you want to think about how people look at graphics on Pinterest and the
mhm,
words that they are looking at and the type of things that pretty much attract their attention. So like if you just say listen to this podcast episode and that's it, it's not gonna they don't once again, they don't know you. They don't know you.
right.
It's different from posting your podcast episode on Instagram where people are following you who kind of have more of a engaging with you. They know kind of who you are. They're more warm to you basically, as opposed to people on
Mhm,
Pinterest, they're cold. So I would use like a title or something that will kind of pull them in. So like say for instance with this episode, it could be like how to use Pinterest to grow your business. And that way they can come and get to know me, but also learn about how to use Pinterest to grow their business. So you're pulling out the key things in your episode and you're going to make pin graphics around those key things and certain things like Pinterest marketing with Presh Rodgers that might
mhm,
hit on Instagram or something because maybe there are people who follow you who know me, but on Pinterest, no one cares about who I am. It's more about the content of the episode that they're looking for, not really for who is talking about it. For some people might see it, yes, they might know me, but not everyone will. And you have to think
right.
about more the cold traffic, people who are coming across your podcast for the first time. What are they going to really get out of that podcast episode? And that's the stuff that you want to put on your Pinterest graphics.
Mhm,
And you don't want to just put an image like I don't even know, like just a regular image by itself. You
mhm.
want it to be words most of the time, depending of course of your business. As a podcaster, usually the words are going to be what captures their attention.
No, yeah, you're dropping gems. I'm excited. I'm like, let me get my Q1 plan together so I can
Yes.
really just approach Pinterest in the right way. Um, and yeah, I guess speaking of that, for people that may be listening, like, okay, I'm about to get on Pinterest. Like, what are the first few steps? Like you were saying, I know it's not about what we were saying, repurposing things they've already created. It may be kind of doing it in a different way. Like, okay, like this worked on TikTok. How can I make this work on Pinterest? But just what are those first few steps that we should be thinking about? Of course, creating a Pinterest account if we don't
Yeah,
have an
we're gonna
account. I'm
skip
guessing there is a
everything.
business
You
account,
know,
you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah, you would create a business account and get that going so you can be ready for that. But you want to be able to, of course, optimize your account. So that
Mhm,
means doing your keyword research. Remember, it is a search engine, so you're gonna want to do your keyword research, which is I always suggest writing down about 20 of your last pieces of content that you have created and
mhm,
then thinking about what are the different keywords that are associated with all those pieces of content, because that's obviously what you're creating content about. And then go on Pinterest and like type some of those keywords in, see what is coming up, see if your content will fit into those search results, because that's what you want your content to show up as, show up in when people are searching for those things. And then also optimizing your account means creating your Pinterest boards. Your Pinterest
mhm,
boards should be um basically like little folders where your content will live. So if you're for me, I talk about Pinterest marketing, I talk about Pinterest ads. So I have a fold or a board that is Pinterest ads. I have a board that is getting started on Pinterest, getting started with Pinterest marketing. I have a board for Pinterest marketing for podcasters. So those are the type of content that I'll
Oh,
be
I need to
creating.
look this up.
So I have like when I do a blog or a video or something about that piece of content, it will go into those boards. So I have a lot of content about that. So if anyone is interested, you can find a lot of that on my blog. And then after that, I would say go through your content and see what is and isn't Pinterest worthy. So basically, what has its own very own link. So you want to be able to link directly to the content on Pinterest from your claim website. So this could be like your actual website, or it can be if you have like a Shopify store or something like that, you can link directly to those things. And then you want to see like how can you repurpose certain pieces of content that you've already created. So like if you have TikToks or Reels, if you have any valuable like IG stories. But by valuable I mean like you're giving something that's inspiring or actionable. You're not just taking them through how you spent your day.
Right.
That had nothing to do with your business, unless you're something like a life coach or something like that. But like if it's like you want to make sure you're giving out the content that people are going to be searching for and finding valuable so that they can then get to know you or want to follow you on Pinterest or want to sign up for something or purchase your product, whatever is your end goal. And then you kind of just build from there.
No, that thank you for sharing that. Is same, or at least what I'm getting from that is it's a big research and planning phase. It's not
Yeah,
just
don't just jump in. I feel like if you jump in, then you're going to try to use it like social media where you're just like pinning once a week or something like that, and that's not going to be very helpful. You want to try to pin as often as possible. It's not like the I say the old days, but not like in the 2010s where you have to pin 10, 20, 15 pins a day. But you do
mm,
want to be consistent in that you're showing up like daily on Pinterest. And it seems like a lot, but once you understand how Pinterest works, you will see that it's not as hard as it seems.
is there what am I trying to ask? I'm guessing there's an algorithm component, right? Like say I'm posting
Oh my-
like daily and I'm like everything has an algorithm, but it's like posting daily. And of course, you may have your keywords on point, and of course there's an order to the content. What
Mhm.
shows up at the top is that I'm guessing is based on like just what's already
It's like
popular.
yeah, it's like rank. So like kind of like Google.
Mm,
When you do a Google search, what's at the top is usually the top ranked, article or whatever it is. The same thing for Pinterest. It's something that whatever that search term is, a lot of people have clicked on that pin. It's clearly going to match the search term that you're looking for. As it's as time goes on, if people are clicking on your pins and they're showing up in the search results, then you can also have a greater rank so that yours is getting more closer to the top of the search results. But they are I would tell people like when you look at Pinterest, I sometimes click on people at the top, but sometimes I scroll
right.
and just whatever
For a
mostly
while.
catches
Yeah.
my attention is what I'm going to click on and not necessarily what's at the top. So just always keep in
Hmm.
mind that it is still a visual search engine. And you just want to make sure that you are using the search terms that people will use and your content is showing up in those search results so that you can grow quicker. And of course, if you have the budget for it, you can always like run Pinterest ads as well.
I was just gonna say, like, stupid question, but does Pinterest have an ad component? And you just
Yes.
answered it.
Yes, and it is if you are not using Pinterest ads, if you are only using like something like Facebook or Instagram ads, you definitely want to look into Pinterest ads.
Mm.
Do a whole episode on that because it is also underrated. It's still the newer one when it comes to everything. Pinterest ads probably been around since 2017, but they didn't really start getting bigger
Mm.
into 2019 when they became a public company. So yeah, it's still new, still growing, but that means that there is less competition. So you can sometimes get your cost per action and things like that much cheaper than you would on other platforms.
Okay, that's really good to know just for listeners. That's like, hey, I'm on Pinterest, but how can I level it up
Especially if
even
you are
more?
if you have like a e-commerce or something like that business, people naturally go to Pinterest and the mindset is different. So ads on Pinterest show up more they're more like I think they say additive like because they're just an addition to your feed. And it's usually, it looks like your normal, like you're just scrolling through Pinterest pins, as opposed to it being like an interruption to
Right.
what you're doing on other platforms. So that's the difference. And people usually are planning on Pinterest. So they might come, they might save your pin, and it can keep working for you longer, because once people start saving your ads, they become organic. And now you are able to reach people organically and, paid through paid marketing. So it works really
No. Okay. No, that's really good to know. And as you were talking, I was just thinking about just those e-commerce businesses or business owners listening in that have products to sell. And it makes me think about what you said a little bit earlier as far as Pinterest can really serve as a piece of your funnel. It's like, because I was like, what's the ways to monetize on
Yeah.
Pinterest? But I think there's, of course, like you actually have now to where, um, especially like the fashion ones, you can actually click to like buy what they have
Yeah, and
on.
it's getting even, as time goes on, I think they're gonna get more into like making shopping even easier for people. So definitely if you have an e-commerce store, especially if it's a Shopify one, because you can easily connect Pinterest and Shopify,
Mm,
that's like the
mhm.
first thing I would suggest doing. Because I've had clients who do that, and within like a couple of weeks, they're already getting sales and they're not even doing anything, because it's going to pull in your catalog for you. So,
And it's evergreen. That's the best part.
once your
That
catalog is, it also says whether or not something is out of stock, in
oh.
stock. You can become a verified merchant. So like it makes it really, really easy if you are a seller, a product seller, to, if nothing else, even if you're not using it as much, it's a place that your product can be found even when you're not showing up. Because like I said, I have clients who they're not using Pinterest like that anymore, but they're still getting sales because it's just their catalogs are already connected. So it makes it just like an easy background thing too until you can start working at it. But I think it's definitely underrated.
No, that's amazing. And like I said, I can see where it fits within a funnel or anyone that has like a process where you want people to take some other kind of step.
Mhm.
So I like that. And yeah, Pinterest is definitely making all sorts of moves. So it's only gonna go up from here. And it seems like this is a good point of time to get into it before, I don't know if it'll ever be crazy, just
Yeah,
oversaturated
I
from a
don't
business
even know what
perspective.
be happening with the world anymore. That's what people say. I'm like, I don't know what's gonna
Right.
happen. Like TikTok was in here a couple of years ago. Now look at TikTok. So we don't know what like where
But
the whole social media wise. And
yeah, but I see that key advantage of Pinterest so easily now, because
it's nothing
people
like
consume
it.
stuff
So
fast. But with TikTok, your video is gonna be old, real quick. Like all this social media, Pinterest seems like because it's more search engine based, it doesn't have to
your
be old.
content, yeah. So that's the other good thing is
The
that
longevity.
your content has so much longevity. Like we always say, like the lifespan of a pin is at least 3.5 months, whereas the
Mm,
lifespan of like a post on Instagram is like 24 hours. I think a reel is a little bit longer, maybe like a week.
right.
Tweets on Twitter is like 17 minutes. Like, so
That's true.
these
That
things
is true.
you have to like think of like how, everything has its place. I know people who market very well on Twitter. I know people who market very well on Instagram. Same thing for Pinterest. And it's like, okay,
Hmm.
but when I think of Pinterest, I'm thinking about my long-term strategy. I'm thinking about, well, this is what people can find my content for weeks, months, and years to come. It's not in any order. If I have like a free offer, I can put multiple free offers on Pinterest. It's not just one link, it's multiple links. There's so much to it. And I
Hmm.
can send people to all my different pieces of content very easily. When I'm showing on Instagram, it's more stuff that's happening in my business right now. And I'm trying to engage more so that people can see my personality. And a little bit of the same thing when I use TikTok is more for the entertainment or
Hmm.
edutainment purposes. So very different places. You have to see like what is the purpose, how am I going to use it, and what like will success look like for me using this platform.
No. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I feel like every time I talk to you, I learn a little bit more and a little bit more. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I do need to get on Pinterest and let me take some notes and get a plan together for Q1. And just
Yeah.
like you said, I think what I'm going to do for everyone listening, I think I want to do what she said and go through content that already exists and figure out what's Pinterest worthy or not. Like maybe start there. I think my brain is like, okay, let me get the
Yeah,
cluster
don't
and
overwhelm
then
yourself. Like
right.
maybe even like make a list and then be like, okay, one thing a day or something like that, or one thing every other day. You sit down and do something Pinterest related where you're preparing yourself for it for Q1,
Hmm.
so that you can kind of go in gradually and then work your way up and not feeling like you have to like go all um, in 1 week. And then because
Hmm.
Pinterest is a long game,
It's a long
like
game.
you're not going to see results in 3 to 6 months, like or until 3 to 6 months. That's what we always tell people. Usually I tell my clients actually like 6 to 12 months is really when you will see what your hard work basically or what we've been putting in for the last 3 to 6 months. That's when you'll start seeing it paying off because once again it's a search engine. It has to be optimized. People have to
Hmm.
start clicking on it. People have to start seeing it. And I always say, but it's long term. So it's not like your content is going anywhere. These are people that's going to find your content for years to come and not just, right now. So you have to look at it as that the long game. But most things that take long is because the return is going to be greater.
Yes, you guys heard it first. We're going Pinterest 2023.
Yes.
Let's get on it. Let's level up our businesses. I really enjoyed you. I enjoyed this conversation. I learned so much, and I'm sure everyone else did as well. And tell us how we can support you, where we can find you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I am at Presh, Presh, Rodgers with a D, so RODGERS, on all platforms. So Twitter, not Twitter, I don't even know. I'll be on Twitter all the time. Not Twitter.
Scrolling.
You won't find no business stuff there. I think I actually do have a Twitter account, but I don't use it. But Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest, of course. You will find me on
Mhm.
all those platforms. So definitely join me on Instagram and TikTok for my Pinterest shenanigans because that's where you will be able to get to know me and hear me see me talk about Pinterest things. And but also follow me on Pinterest so you can, find all of my content at once.
Yes, I would definitely be following you. I want to learn some more and just see how you're leveraging Pinterest and TikTok. I'm so into TikTok right now.
Actually, TikTok is my new thing that it's really my 2023. I'm like 2023 goal. So I'm trying to like I'm there's this one app I think it's called. I can't remember the name of it, but it allows you to repurpose your content easily. Um
Ooh.
and I want to get it where I can just I've been seeing I don't want to say the name because I don't want to call them out like that, but like I used it and not my Instagram, my TikTok stuff
TikTok.
didn't do well, but they do have the option to where they can take your content from TikTok or Instagram and then save it to like Google Drive without the watermark. And that's really my main thing because even though I can download a watermark like from like Snaptick or something like that,
Right.
that little bit of thing is like work that I don't want to do. I'd rather have it all in my like a Google Drive somewhere that I can just quickly pull from and post them up there or have my VA or somebody do it. Um but yeah, so my goal is to take all my reels from Instagram and put them
Mhm.
onto TikTok this
Mhm.
quarter and then see how that does for me in quarter 1 of 2023. Because I do TikTok a lot for my author business and I love it. But I'm like, let me see how it
Mm.
works for Pinterest and just give it a go. Also, Instagram be overwhelming me lately because basically they're TikTok. So
Basically, I agree. Look, whole nother conversation for a whole nother
I
day.
know
It's
you're like,
like,
oh gosh, like I don't even know the
we see
platform.
what's going on. It's like, okay, I guess y'all.
So yeah, but yeah, that's my goal as well. So having fun with it really though.
No, for sure. So everyone, please go follow her. I will make sure to include the links in the show notes just so you can get more information and support her. And again, thank you so much for doing this with me and just
No
bringing us into your
problem.
world and teaching us along the way. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.